Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror.
There was one part of Trump's Iran speech that I think everybody missed. It gave us a look into the future and what his administration is planning, and it's extremely worrying. We'll get into that in a moment, and also a way that you can take action now. But over the past 24 hours, there have been some major developments in the US's involvement in Israel's war with Iran. A mouthful, you could just say the US is at war with Iran. I think that's fair. But let's start with Trump's address last night and Pete Hegseth's press conference earlier today.
Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated.
We devastated the Iranian nuclear program. Iran's nuclear ambitions have been obliterated.
The Trump administration is trying to sell this operation as a massive success. They're saying Iran's nuclear capabilities have been completely wiped out. There were 3 targets for the US in Iran, with Fordo being the one they were most after. That is the purported nuclear facility that is deep underground and would require munitions that only the US had to destroy. This is where the bunker buster bombs came in. But new satellite imagery shows that that facility may still be intact.
We don't know, sitting here right now, whether the highly enriched uranium was in the Fordo facility or in the Natanz facility.
The level of destruction remains unclear. We won't know for the foreseeable future. The US certainly won't be able to get on the ground and investigate themselves. Not that they would tell the truth, but still. Satellite imagery right now is the best we have. And I think Representative Jim Himes summed it up best.
Do you think the world is a safer place this morning than it was yesterday?
Casey, stop. Look, that's insane. That's insane. You don't need to be an intelligence professional to know that we have no idea whether these strikes were successful. Now, if what you're looking for is a big boom and a large hole in the ground, I have very little doubt that our bunker busters did a big boom and a very large hole in the ground. But we have no idea in the world right now whether these strikes were in any way successful.
That's right. We don't know what the outcome is, and we certainly can't just take the administration's word for it. Then there is this framing that Iran's nuclear ambitions are totally over and the world is safer. An argument that Himes made in that interview was that the most worrying outcome of all of this is for Iran to go quiet, because what that would indicate is that Iran doesn't have any interest in retaliating against Israel in the US right now. What that might reflect is that they will take action to develop a nuclear weapon. There's an important distinction here. I say will develop because recent reporting shows that they aren't actively developing one. Earlier this year, an intelligence report found that Iran was not developing a nuclear weapon, and members of Congress have validated this. Take, for instance, this tweet from Chris Murphy. He was briefed on the intelligence last week and confirmed that Iran was not developing a nuclear weapon. They're nowhere close to having a nuclear weapon. Jim Himes, the top Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee, confirmed that.
I had not seen any intelligence as a member of the Gang of Eight to suggest that Iran had taken the decision to build a weapon. I don't think there's any intelligence out there that suggests that that's true. And secondly, while it's a little hazier because you don't know what you don't know, I think that our intelligence community and other intelligence agencies around the world believe that Iran was still a fairly long way from being able to put a weapon into a missile that they could use to deliver a weapon outside of Iran. So it's a pretty murky picture intelligence-wise.
But let's say Iran does retaliate. What might that look like? The chances of a direct attack on the US are slim. Of course, you can't rule it out, but it isn't likely. We've already seen retaliatory strikes against Israel, as Israel had already been attacking Iran, so that will likely continue. There are US troops stationed in the region. Iranian officials have reportedly said that those soldiers are now targets. The most likely indirect attack on the US is Iran affecting or even closing the Strait of Hormuz. Now, the Strait of Hormuz is a critically important shipping route that borders Iran. You can see that here. Nearly 20% of the world's oil supply flows through that strait. If Iran affects the flow of oil through that strait, or even closes it, you'll see higher gas prices, and likely higher prices across the board as the global supply chain will be impacted. So to reiterate, Trump campaigned on no new wars and lower prices.
And I'm proud to be the first president in decades who started no new wars. That's very good. I will end the endless wars. They never stop. Again, we had no wars. We had no new wars under Your favorite president, President Trump. We had no new wars.
We are closer today to World War III than we've been since the Second World War. We will restore peace through strength. That's what we had. You know, remember when Hillary Clinton, crooked Hillary, remember Hillary? She used to say, look at him, he will get us into war. Look at his attitude. I said, no, my attitude is going to keep you out of war. That's what happened. We had no new wars.
And instead, his voters got a new war and likely higher prices as a consequence. Over the past week or so, we have seen polling that reflects Republicans didn't even want a direct strike on Iran. Polling reflected a bipartisan consensus. They did not want the US involved in this war. And of course, you will see people flip-flop out of blind loyalty to Trump, but there are people out there on the right, in the MAGA base, who are not happy. And I think when coupled with rising prices, you will see that dissatisfaction grow. So that will be an interesting factor to monitor as time goes on. And we're going to do that. So if you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, we'd greatly appreciate it. Trump's Vice President J.D. Vance has been making the rounds today on the Sunday morning shows to justify this strike, to reassure the MAGA base that this is somehow within that no new wars promise. He's trying to spin this attack on Iran as something that is limited, not about regime change, not a war with Iran, but only on Iran's nuclear facilities.
What we've said to the Iranians is we do not want war with Iran, we actually want peace. But we want peace in the context of them not having a nuclear weapons program, and that's exactly what the president accomplished last night. The Iranians are clearly not very good at war. Perhaps they should follow President Trump's lead and give peace a chance. If they're serious about it, I guarantee you the President of the United States is too.
But perhaps his most absurd comment was this one.
I certainly empathize with Americans who are exhausted after 25 years of foreign entanglements in the Middle East. I understand the concern, but the difference is that back then we had dumb presidents, and now we have a president who actually knows how to accomplish America's national security objectives.
Let's break this down. So Trump attacked Iran because Iran wouldn't sign the deal that Trump wanted. But Trump had that deal when he came into office the first time and then ripped it up. And that deal was negotiated by Barack Obama. So he wants the same deal that Obama already had, but that he ripped up. So attacking Iran, which no other president wanted to do because it was unwise, makes him smarter than all of the other past presidents. Am I following? Please make that make sense. If the Trump administration was genuinely concerned about Iran developing a nuclear weapon, they shouldn't have ripped up that deal in the first place, because that deal placed safeguards to prevent Iran from enriching uranium to weapons grade. And then there is this idea that we're somehow going to obtain peace through strength. Somehow, by bombing Iran directly, we have obtained peace. This foreign policy oxymoron seems to infect the brains of every conservative, neoliberal, and war hawk in Washington. Somehow, by bombing another country, we are obtaining peace. But the US is ultimately doing this at the behest of Israel.
I want to thank and congratulate Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. We worked as a team like perhaps no team has ever worked before.
Israel didn't have the bunker buster bombs required to attack places like Fordo. But by participating in this, you are complicit in Israel's ongoing war against Iran. A war that, mind you, has killed over 400 people in Iran and wounded over 3,000 people already. And right now, there is no indication that Israel plans to slow down or that the US might. And right now, there's no indication that Israel is planning to slow down. And even more concerning, it doesn't seem like the US is done. And this is the part that I think everybody missed in his comments.
Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. There will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days. Remember, there are many targets left.
This line in his speech didn't seem to get picked up by many outlets. A lot of people ran with the administration's framing, that they wiped out Iran's nuclear facilities and that their nuclear ambitions are over. But by hinting there are many targets that remain, you're leaving the door open to long-term US involvement in Iran. And this is why people are so concerned. Most of us have spent a large portion of our life, and in some cases a majority of our life, living in the United States that is in a perpetual state of forever war. From Iraq and Afghanistan Afghanistan to long-term engagements throughout the Middle East and Africa, in some areas unseen and less visible, and in other ways supporting an ongoing conflict directly, like in Yemen. We are sick of it. We're tired of it. We don't want our tax dollars going to another war. There are enough problems here in the US, but the Republicans are telling us they have to cut social safety net programs because they're too wasteful. Yet Trump is out there starting another war. Enough is enough, and there is a way you can take action. Now, I initially set this site up after the October 7th attacks and Israel's subsequent war on Gaza. It's called ceasefiretoday.com, and for the past nearly 2 years, it has featured a list of actions that you can take to demand a ceasefire in Gaza. Unfortunately, that site is still relevant in its original context, but I added a new section at the top with a few actions that you can take right now to demand no war with Iran. And as this conflict continues to escalate, I'll add more as I find them. If you see any out there, please leave a comment and I'll add it to the site. That site, again, is ceasefiretoday.com. You can take action in as little as 30 seconds. Together, I know we can make an impact. And I hope that cooler heads prevail. It'd be better for the region, it would be better for Israel and Iran, it would be better for the world. We will keep monitoring this as it develops, so please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Can't thank you enough. Thank you for watching.